Three, two,
I believe in all of you.
one. I love you too. Here we go. Set. All right. Now I got my buzz. All right. Well, welcome everyone to tonight's program featuring Imani Cezanne, co-sponsored by the Center for Literary Arts and Poetry Center San Jose. Just a few program notes here. The Center for Literary Arts, CLA, provides readings, lectures, conversations, and seminars that allow the San Jose community to interact with writers of contemporary literature who have demonstrated exceptional voice and vision. Its mission is to spread the influence of and interest in literature throughout the South Bay and to facilitate cross-cultural understanding in the region's ethnically diverse population through the appreciation of works of literature. Since 1986, the CLA's major author series has been the most significant literary series in the region and has included 5 winners of Nobel Prize level, 16 winners of the National Book Award, and 29 winners of the Pulitzer Prize. The Center for Literary Arts is funded entirely by grants and donations from individuals and foundations, and supported in part by a cultural affairs grant from the city of San Jose and a community arts fund grant from Arts Council Silicon Valley, now known as SV Creates. Additional support is given by Poets and Writers, Inc. through a grant it has received from the James Irvine Foundation. Now, CLA sends special thanks to the Lewandowski family for underwriting Imani's honorarium. For more information about CLA's programming and to become a supporter, please visit clasanjose, all one word, .org. Upcoming events include a reading by Atessa Moshfegh, author of Death in Her Hands, Thursday, May 6th, 7 p.m. on Crowdcast. I'll have it in the chat. Now for Poetry Center San Jose, whose mission is to nurture and promote diverse literary expression in our community as a means of exploring, defining, and enriching the human experience. And in furtherance of our mission, we offer programs and services to stimulate passion for the literary arts and to inspire and support emerging and established writers. Poetry Center San Jose is a member-supported organization and is funded in part by grants from Applied Materials Foundation, the City of San Jose Office of Cultural Affairs, Poets and Writers, Silicon Valley Community Foundation, SV Creates in partnership with the County of Santa Clara and the California Arts Council, and generous giving from Ann and Mark's Art Party. For more information about PCSJ's programming and to become a supporter, visit pcsj.org. Upcoming events include the Well-Read Reading Series featuring the new editorial team for Sejura Magazine, co-sponsored by Works San Jose Art and Performance Center, Tuesday, May 11th, 7 p.m. via Zoom. And then look for information about our new program, Beautiful Black Books, hosted by Tshaka Campbell on Juneteenth. And he will have information about that program, 7 p.m. on Zoom. Now for Imani Cezanne, a Black writer, performer, and tamale connoisseur living in Oakland, California. In March, she became the 2020 Woman of the World Poetry Slam champion for the second time. And in July of the same year, she was named a 2020 Ruth Lilly Dorothy Sargent Rosenberg Fellowship finalist. As a 2-time Pushcart Prize nominee, Imani has work in Nimrod, Fugue, Red Wheelbarrow, Crab Creek Review, and Poetry Magazine. While all are welcome to enjoy her work, Imani writes for Black people, Black readers, and is committed to the liberation of all oppressed people. Imani is a recipient of the San Francisco Arts Commission's 2020 Writers Core Teaching Artist in Residence grant, granted every year for 3 years to create spoken word poetry programming for the youth of San Francisco. Throughout her teaching career, Imani has taught creative writing and spoken word in over 40 middle and high schools across the country. She has also coached poetry slam teams at San Francisco State, Mills College, American University, and Georgetown University. She is currently a teaching artist with Youth Speaks, SF Jazz, the Museum of African Diaspora, and Performing Arts Workshop. Now, following tonight's reading will be a conversation between Imani Cezanne and artist-performer Tshaka Campbell. Now, please give it up for Imani Cezanne.
Yay, silent applause, silent applause. Good evening, everyone. It's so awkward to like listen to my bio because I'd be like, wow, that person sounds great. I'm like, oh, that's me. Interesting. Two things. One, can y'all hear me? Because I have my fan on because it's a little warm, but I feel like it might be, you're good. Okay, you can hear me. Perfect. Second thing is Tshaka will be saying a poem today. So take this time to figure out which one you're going to say because I'm standing strong in that. Good evening, everyone. I hope you like poems. I'm going to say some. If you like them, great. I would love to know. You can use the chat to share how you feel. I think that's honestly the only other way that you can communicate your feelings. Or you can just like put a vibe out, right? Like a vibe, like a snap from wherever in the world you are. I will feel the vibe, I promise. If you don't like the poems, keep it to yourself. I don't need the kind of, the negativity in my life. So yeah, if you're not feeling them, just sorry. I haven't been able to do poems on a stage in over a year, and I'm kind of itching to, but I'm really grateful for opportunities like this one, where we can, gather even virtually to share and to listen. So I'm going to say some poems. I'm probably going to talk in between those poems. I'm probably going to tell some jokes. They may or may not be funny. I'm like 50-50, on my humor. Shout out to Tshaka, shout out to Mike McGee, shout out to Scorpiana. I have to say Mike McGee's full name for some reason, I don't know. I just grew up saying it that way, so I have to say it like that. Shout out to the Center for Literary Arts and San Jose State and all of the places that have come together to make it so that I can be here sharing poems. I'm gonna do a lot of new poems, and by new I mean written in the last year. Excuse me. There are some folks, and maybe not today, but there are often folks who come to shows kind of looking for particular poems. Sometimes I do that. Today's not one of those days, so sorry if that's the experience that you're having. But I do want to read some new stuff because it's fun for me, and yeah, this is all about me. I also feel really excited, right, about my newer stuff. And if we're on the computer anyway, and there's like old poems you want to hear, you could just watch them on YouTube. Like, I feel like it's the same, it's the same kind of thing. Like, it's on the internet either way. So I'm going to start with a poem that is near and dear to my heart, and especially being the Bay, I'm in Oakland right now. I went to San Francisco State University, kind of just decided to hang out in the Bay. And the Bay's been good to me. The Bay poetry scene has been good to me. The people here have been good to me. My family is from Oakland, but I grew up in San Diego because I was raised by my mom. And so I've always had, but my dad always lived here. So I would come in the summers and visit him. And I always had, a relationship with the Bay Area, even if I didn't live here full time. So when I went to San Francisco State, it was really an opportunity for me to kind of explore the roots that I had that were already here. And with that, I originally went to San Francisco State as a cinema major because I was and am still very much into film and photography, filmmaking, etc. And I ended up changing it to Black Studies after my sophomore year, because I found out that there were Black Studies classes, and I just took a bunch of them because I was really excited. I never knew that, Black people was something you could study. So, and the of course history of Black folks and how we've been oppressed and discriminated against, and et cetera, et cetera. I didn't know that was a subject until I got there. So all that to say, I wrote this poem for that. And I just spilled water all over myself. Smooth, Imani. All right, here we go. It's called SFSU Fall 2008. Black women bear the sweetest fruit, and still, Dr. Head been mean since mean been mean. But some black folks don't get to grow old without hardening into a callus. And every hand in my family is black as soil, so I get it. But couldn't nobody say she ain't know the land? And hell, I didn't even know Black psychology was something to know. So there I was, first day of undergrad with my first Black teacher since my mama, when Dr. Head tells us to always, always, always capitalize the B in Black. Says be specific, says ain't a more proper noun, says we never meant Black like the color, we meant Black like got the nerve to die and come back Black, like a church pew of first ladies holding grandbabies. And they say Black magic is the devil's doing, but Black magic spun the earth like an old record. And I swear you can hear the stars hum when the sky is black is just the right pitch. And sure, you can make some black beans stretch across a table, but a bowl of black beans will turn a famine to a glutton, then send it home with a to-go plate. Not black like a funeral, black like a coffin dance atop your favorite auntie, while a trumpet holds your good shoes. Black like one Sunday at Grandnanny's house, Pot had called Kettle black, and Kettle was like, "You right." And child, they laughed a capital B ass laugh, because they know black is everyone's favorite metal to mine. And they've been digging in our business since before Jet Beauty's been black. But you could find a drill long as the Mississippi, and you still ain't gonna get you no oil that's black as niggas from any MLK Boulevard, because we ain't mean black like the color. We meant black like the meanest woman. Black like the sweetest fruit. Thank you. Yeah, I know finishings are so anticlimactic on Zoom, because but I appreciate y'all. I see the claps and the hearts and the things. Word. So yep, that's my Black poem. Shout out to Dr. Head. She has since passed since my first day of undergrad. And I think the best way I know how to keep her name alive and her contribution, at the very least, to my learning, is to be honest about who she was. And she was mean, but that's who she was, right? And that I envy that almost. I appreciate it, right? Just showing up as you are. But I also, like I said, or kind of alluded to in the poem, like, I get it, right? She was very old and Black woman. I can't imagine the kind of things that she survived. And that those things can harden you over time. And so, yeah, shout out to Dr. Head. So, cool. That was cute too, because it's like San Jose State and college. I didn't even think of that till now. I'm brilliant. So the next poem I'm excited about sharing is let's just stay in the theme of the Bay. So another poem I wrote that somehow Poetry Magazine was down to publish. I didn't think they were gonna publish it, y'all. Honestly, like I say in my bio, and I make it very explicit, in the first sentence, I'm Black. In the last sentence, I'm Black, and I write for Black folks. My poems are very Black. I don't subscribe to the idea of adjusting myself or my person in different spaces. I come from a spoken word background, and that's really, really important to my story as a poet and as a writer. To name that, I came into poetry through spoken word, through poetry slam, right? I've never taken a creative writing class in my life. Actually, that's not true. I did try once and I hated it, so I dropped it. But I've never finished a creative writing class in my life. I never had any formal writer training, and yet have been able to really make a career out of poetry. And I think that really speaks to how much we learn and grow and understand about craft within poetry slam and spoken word. But because of a lot of reasons, because of racism, because of patriarchy, because of sexism, etc., spoken word poetry slam are not looked at as legitimate spaces to learn much of anything, right? Let alone, like I said, craft and what it means to be a poet. But I learned it there, and all of us are learning it there. All of that to say, I recently decided to just see what publishing would look like. And if people would even be down to read my poems on paper, because I had never really done that before. All of my poems were intended to be read on the stage. And so I applied for the Ruth Lilly Fellowship and became a finalist. And so Poetry Magazine, who gives the fellowship, decided to publish each of the finalists. So they asked for a poem. And I was like, I'm gonna send them this one because I wanted them to say, no, we're not going to publish it. And I wanted to have a fight about it. But no, they're like, okay, sure. So it's called I Want to Punch All the White People in Oakland. And it is, I called it, what did I call it? A hyperbolic analysis of gentrification of Oakland. But it really came because I was walking down the street and I was like, I just want to punch all of these people. I'm gonna read it. I want to punch all the white people in Oakland in the mouth. Serve up a cold brewed left hook, smooth and black and right on time. Now, I'm not a violent person, but I know a little something about fear. And if you scared somebody's going to pound your face into a cake pan, you might think twice before getting up the nerve to come knock down my door like you, the damn police. Talking about my weed too loud, my bass too funky. If you ask me, them sound like fighting words. Somebody gonna lose. And it ain't gonna be my black ass laid out. It's gonna be your jaw cracked, your mouth split and bursting onto your dockers, and even your mama won't recognize your ugly mug, eyes so swollen and pulsating you really won't see color. I said I will beat you the fuck up, leave a scar big as your trust fund. Anybody got a problem? I'll knock them out too. Look like y'all out of gas, ain't a station for miles. So welcome to the East, where you can't show up unannounced, uninvited, empty-handed, ill-intended, because you may not make it out. Of all the ways to draw blood, my favorite is on purpose, from the descendants of my colonizers. I'm not violent, but you came up in my house, ain't wipe your feet, ain't greet my granny. How you gonna ask me if I'm supposed to be where I'm at? Gonna go out your way just to get in mine and think I won't knock your nose into next week. Think I won't snatch that N-word from out your snout. Yeah, I'm talking about you and your nasty pug all up at the taco truck. Triple filtering selfies at the protest, swerving in and out the bike lane on your way to do the work during these times. But I know how to deal with y'all. Mama taught me to raise my fists like an empty high rise next to a bus stop that someone calls home. She said, don't come back in here if you lose. So this ain't a threat. It's just affordable housing. Don't you dare knock a necessary hustle. This is past due process. This is self-defense against the kind of vicious crime that you can point to on a map and say, I remember living there before they knocked the black out. Thank you. Silent applause. Yeah, I really love that poem. I spent a lot of time on that poem. It follows a form called a golden shovel. And what that means is that the end words, like if you're looking at it, and you can put, actually, I should show it to you guys. But if you pull it up on Poetry Magazine's website, each of the end lines, if you read them like downward, make up a verse. That's a golden shovel. And so it makes up LL Cool J's "I'm Gonna Knock You Out." So if you read it down, it says "I'm gonna knock you out." Mama said "knock you out." So yeah, like things like that are really fun to do on the page, and you know, you don't get to have fun with poetry like that with on stage. Well, it's different kinds of fun, right? Because different. Anyway, we good? We still with me? Word. Oh, really, Amy? See, we're on the same page. Well, I don't know how old they are, but if they're, you know, if you feel like it's appropriate, you should show them that one. Cool. Yeah, I'm enjoying myself. Hope y'all are enjoying yourselves. That poem, like I said, is important to me. My family is from Oakland, and you know, watching my dad kind of drive around and like point to, this is where we used to, you know, swim in the summers with my brothers, and this is where we used to do this, and there used to be this here, and kind of identifying the holes, right? Has definitely been an experience. What's next? So before the world shut down, I used to travel pretty frequently. This is what I do pretty much full time when I'm not teaching poetry or teaching artists how to teach poetry. I used to travel a lot and perform at universities and you know, colleges, festivals, conferences. Pretty much anyone who has a budget is trying to hear a poem, like I'm down to go to your thing. And I was able to experience a lot of different airports. And the interesting thing about airports is that they're essentially like a microcosm of what's happening in the United States, probably globally, but I'm just being a little more specific for the sake of my experience because I don't really travel internationally. And so I don't know of any other place where you can go to that kind of recreates the systems of oppression and discrimination and hierarchy and classism and ableism and transphobia and et cetera, the way an airport does. It's like a mini, you guys get what I'm trying to say. So, you know, we think about things like first class and, you know, TSA pre-check and who gets to take off their shoes versus who doesn't, and things like clear that let, you know, if you pay money, then you can skip the line, and it's a lot. And so one of the things that was most difficult for me actually just happened. I went to San Diego because my best friend just had a baby, is they'll check my hair. They'll like dig their fingers in my hair. Or sometimes ask me to take my bun down. I've had all kind of very invasive experiences with people, usually white people, touching my hair. And as many of you I'm sure know, there's a history, right, behind, a tradition behind white people, white women especially, touching Black women's hair, especially without permission. And so to have to regularly go through this process of kind of like, you know, grating my teeth and letting a person stick their hands in my hair as a safety precaution is absurd. And the reason for that is because the machines are not designed to be able to essentially look through or past Black people's hair, or more thicker, I guess I should say thicker hair, right? And so instead of, right, continuing whatever design process that was required to make sure that the machine could look through all types of hair, they said, oh, it's fine. We'll just search Black folks' hair individually. And there you can definitely read up more about that because it's actually a whole thing. Anyway, I wrote this poem about it. It's called No Crowns Allowed Through TSA. It goes through four separate occasions, just so you're clear about kind of how to understand it. 1. A cherry blonde with more flakes on her shoulders than a box of cereal is assigned to investigate my scalp, dig through its sacred ground, unearth foreign land for the sake of the discovery. This is not the first excavation I've endured, or the second, or the 10th. This is just a precaution. This is just to make sure. I roll groggy eyes, take a breath deep as the Atlantic, unlatch the fence, pull back a barbed wire perimeter, crooked fingers burrow a too forgiving soil, Madam Walker Rich, crop dressed in Cantu's new spring collection. And this heifer had the nerve to demand an explanation, asked me why each spiral foamed at the mouth, called it a ravenous kink, unhedged garden of flight risks in full bloom, swore she heard an eager snarl that could devour her kind of blood for fun. 2. I place my shoes on the conveyor belt next to my dignity, release my belt buckle, remove rose gold hoop earrings, wait, again. Each kernel is eventually pulled from its husk, plantation pattern so black, baby hairs sat easy on the hip, edge curls stretched, then tightened into shiny ringed ornaments, toothbrush and pro-style slick. No liquids, gels, creams, aerosols, shea butter, knocker balls, hard bristles, breadths, bonnets, or bundles permitted on the aircraft. They done lost their damn minds. Naturally, my hair insists on speaking to a supervisor. In trots a golden retriever, and they call me Rabid. 3. You gonna do something with that natural? Silly girl. You thought this contraption could penetrate that mangled mess? Good one. Is it yours? Is it real? Is it really yours? Guess we'll find out. Remember in 5th grade, Sarah called you pubic head? And you said you would never let one of us touch you again? Tough crowd. Thought your body was yours just because you said so? Adorable. Remember when, how, after, and you vowed to never look a hot comb in the teeth again? 4. This donut powdered rent-a-cop poked and prodded my skull like I was up for purchase. The way them oils popped when he clutched them naps in the back, you would have thought it was dinner in the kitchen. My hair was hot, sizzling, boiled overflow of sass, wished to explode into a tangled revolution, burn the airport down and erect a monument in its unmanageable image. But every strand held its respectable place, suffered through the yank, tug, pull, and not one tress unraveled. He cracked each mouth wide open, checked teeth for buried bite, stroked waist-length plaits for whip scar clues of back talk or book learning or looking like they was thinking something. They was, of all the ways to kill him dead. And see. Thank you. Racism is everywhere. You don't even have to look real hard, even just going to the airport. How much time do I have? I feel like I've just been talking, child. I'm okay? All right, I'm just gonna keep talking until someone tells me to stop.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, cool. Let's all just maybe take a deep breath. 1, 2, 3, in and out. Appreciate you. Anytime I need a breath, I just project it onto other folks. Because you may too need a breath. And so we just take a breath together. What do I want to read next? So this poem is another form I've been playing with. It's called a pantoum. I hate pantoums. They are obnoxious. I don't know if anyone's ever written a pantoum. Don't recommend it. So pantoum is Scorpiana. I love pantoums. No one asked you. No, I'm just kidding. So what a pantoum is, it's a poem where, I'm probably going to say it wrong, the first and third line of, the second and fourth line of the previous stanza become the first and third line of the next stanza. And the idea is that it's not verbatim repetition. It's supposed to vary in slight ways, but essentially it's supposed to be kind of a callback to the previous line. And that makes it difficult, excuse me, it makes it difficult to write in a way that doesn't feel like I'm just repeating the second and fourth line as the first. You want it to be intentional, and even though the words are similar, you want them to kind of do a different thing in the following stanza, and that can be kind of difficult. But I've been having a lot of fun with form. Like I said, I come from spoken word backgrounds. I come from poetry slam backgrounds. I come from the teachings and the learnings of Tshaka Campbell and Mike McGee, to name a couple, and really studied and watched and he's so silly. Really studied and watched and took notes on folks and how they did the things they did on stage. And so it's been similar kind of process when it comes to poems on a page. And I've learned that forms have allowed me some an entry point, right? So it's not just this really big scary blank page, but there's like, okay, here are kind of the rules and the guidelines, and it's like a game. Like I gotta do what I do within these limitations. It's been really fun. So this is a pantoum for my mom. It's called All Heroes Wear Bonnets. Gonna need God's whole Sunday to rest after I get through with you. Lord, give me the strength to tackle this mess you done put on my child's head. Go on now, get the knocker balls, the barrettes, the bobos, the rubber bands, get the rat tail comb and the big purple comb and all 3 hot combs. Lord, give me the strength to accept the thickness I cannot change. Even the blue gel, the brown gel, the edge control, and the toothbrush, even the rat tail comb and the big purple comb and all 3 hot combs ain't no match for this faithful fro. This a thorough thickness, a loyal tangle. Child, the blue gel, the brown gel, the edge control, and the toothbrush gonna put in some work today, because this mess is triple, double, overtime thick. This here, a full-grown fro, a theatrical thickness. This is an untamable tangle. This stuff is molasses thick. If I'm lying, Lord, strike me down where I stand. Matter of fact, get me some tea, because this stuff is thick as the South is humid. Whatever prayer you prayed to grow this crop, you need to put it in a bottle and sell, because this stuff is harvest thick. If I'm lying, Lord, strike me down right here and now. Ooh, girl, you got more hair than the earth got sky to spare. Whatever prayer you prayed to multiply this mane, you need to put in a can and donate. Because, child, these some intentional naps. These kinks is on their way to someplace. Ooh, child, I'm saying you got more hair on your head than the beach got waves. Gonna need God's whole Sunday to rest after I get through with you. Oh, shout out to my mom. A lot of those were direct quotes, so it made me smile. One thing that works about pantoums when you're reading or when the speaker, use getting my academic poetry terms, the speaker of the poem, when the speaker of the poem is a Black woman, especially, but it's specifically an older Black woman, because they repeat themselves really often, and so it works. So that was fun. That was fun to do. Let's see. I want to do 2 more poems. One is kind of a downer, so let's do that one next so that we don't end on a downer. Going back to, like I said, my playing with form and what the possibilities are for poetry on the page, similarly to I'm always looking for ways that I can be like, okay, how hasn't this been done before, right? In what way, what stories have we not heard? before, or at least in this way, because I don't think there are really any new topics so much as there are new ways to go about the topic. So this poem, actually, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do like I'm gonna let's see. I'm actually gonna share my screen because I want you guys to see this. Okay, can you guys see this? You all, this is like, you're in my like personal drive. Like, I want you guys to know this is like really in my business, but
Oh,
I'm excited about it.
Oh,
And
yes.
so here's what's happening. So this is the poem that it's called, what is it called? A cleave poem. I've heard two terms. I've heard cleave and I've heard another word. But I mean, they're both, I think people, people in poetry, they just like make up words and it's like, yeah, it means this. So I feel like two separate people on different sides of the world like came up with this form but called it different things. So what happens is there's the left column is a poem. The right column is a poem. But then if you read them together, that's a third poem. So there are three poems happening in this. This just won a prize with Philadelphia Stories. So shout out to them. So it's going to be published there if you want to look at it. But I'm going to read it. Yep, I'm going to read it. It came from, really quick background, friend of mine were driving. I was driving them to the airport shortly after the shelter in place happened last year. We got pulled over kind of in the middle of nowhere for reasons that the cop was never able to name. I said, why are they pulled over? And he's like, yeah, I'll let you know. And we never actually got we never got the answer to that. So yeah, my friend and I were afraid that we might die. And that was a very real fear. And so we said, okay, well, what's the worst case scenario is that we die. And it got to the point where we felt like if we could accept that as a potential option, then anything else that happened at least wouldn't be that bad. And when I got home, I wrote what was the first draft of this poem. It definitely looks very different than, I'm not going to act like I went home and wrote this cleave poem and it was perfect. Like, no, it took me a while to edit after, but called Worst Case Scenario. The left side reads, I die while my body reds the concrete, bare hands, sweat heavy and quaking while panic spills from your mouth and I am stuck here, panting, waiting to happen. Meanwhile, all my faults sit casually. Maybe there are worse traditions to follow than dying on the way to anywhere but here, looking for any now. But now I am another name thrown into the pile. Even if you tell my mother I planned for this, she'll still crack. But God is always on time, so I ain't dead, just on schedule. While the evening news broadcasts my last breath, we wonder, how can we call ourselves gods if our children grow up to be dead? Before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to polish and turn to coin and travel toward the light, looking for a place not white so we'd be not black. People just alive, and I want you to know I tried and I held on as long as I could. Right side. You die, and I have to pluck the lead out of your chest. And an apology I do not want turns to foam while the car runs on my behalf with a lit blunt burning in the ashtray, slow and black and mild, like an innocent nigger that inhaled then exhaled. Because a cracker cop ain't want us breathing, you do not get to smile or cry or shout or say goodbye. Before I unclench your hand, I promise to remember to resist, to fight, to talk slick walk like we practiced and pray. Yes, pray to all of them. Buddha, Allah, Jah, but you still do not rise 3 days later or 4 or 5. And when I hand the bullets I rescued from your ribcage to your aching mother, I'll explain that we were not the wrong bodies, not the wrong color. We just could not out-hang the lynch, but I tried. I really did. I swear. All together. I die while my body reds the concrete. You die and I have to pluck the lead out of your chest. Bare hands, sweat heavy and quaking, while panic and an apology I do not want turns to foam, spills from your mouth, and I am stuck here, panting, while the car runs on my on my behalf, with a lit blunt waiting to happen. Meanwhile, all my faults sit casually, burning in the ashtray, slow and black and mild. Maybe there are worse traditions to follow than dying like an innocent nigger that inhaled and exhaled on the way to anywhere but here, looking for any now. But because a cracker cop ain't want us breathing, now I am another name thrown into the pile. Even if you do not get to smile or cry or shout or say goodbye, you tell my mother I planned for this. She'll still crack. But before I unclench your hand, I promise to remember God is always on time, so I ain't dead, just on schedule, to resist, to fight, to talk slick walk just like we practiced, while the evening news broadcasts my last breath. We pray, yes, pray to all of them. Buddha, Allah, Jah, but you wonder, how can we call ourselves gods if our children do not rise 3 days later, or 4 or 5? And when when I grow up, I'm gonna go back. But you still wonder, how can we call ourselves gods if our children do not rise 3 days later, or 4 or 5? And when I grow up to be dead, before I wake, I pray the Lord hand the bullets I rescued from your rib cage to my soul to polish and turn to coin and travel towards your aching mother. I'll explain that we were the light looking for a place not white, so we'd be not black. Not the wrong bodies, not the wrong color. We just people, just alive. And I want you to know I tried, and I could not out-hang the lynch, but I tried. I really did. Held on as long as I could. I swear. Woo, that was rough. Got through it though. Yep. That's the Cleve poem. Definitely challenge yourself to write one of those if you're someone who writes things. They're very difficult because any change has to work 3 different times. But yeah, it's fun. Unless you're, writing about potentially being murdered by the police. So last poem, super excited to have shared poems with you all today. Please continue to, if you're already doing this, please continue. And if you're not doing this, please start. To tap in with the Black folks around you, the Black organizations around you. I'm Black. Poetry, spoken word poetry especially, is Black. And there's something to be said about what it means to absorb and participate in Black art spaces, whether that's poetry or otherwise. While also supporting the Black people, right, that are behind the Black art. And so we hurting regularly on a regular basis for reasons that I'm sure I don't need to name. And yeah, make sure that you are engaged with Black folks outside of the consumption of the things that we do. So with that, I wanna end with a poem I wrote when I was living in DC for a couple of years. DC is a very Black place, and I love it for that. I'm from San Diego originally, which is not a Black place. There are Black areas and Black pockets, but not a Black place. And it's called Ethnography. I took a research methods class in college and learned about ethnography, which is a observing yourself essentially, without introducing any sort of judgment or implications or anything like that. It's just exactly the things that you're observing, right? And so this was me observing these 2 Black girls, but really feeling like they were me. And so I was observing myself. 2 Black girls stand at a Northeast DC bus stop. Younger than I would ever be at a bus stop with a friend after dark, but that's just what old people say. One is rocking a lavender lipstick too bright for a school day. Her hair sits atop her head in 2 buns. The other has long braids sprinting down her back, a clean, round face. They trade stories like they pay bills. Bun Girl tells about how a white girl asks why girl with 2 braids hair was so much longer this week than it was last week. They laugh the way Black girls laugh after telling a story they don't have to finish. Bun Girl tells another story. She's the talker of the two. Girl with 2 braids doesn't mind. One time, Bun Girl asked Granny to press and curl her hair so she would look like Edith. Is Edith a white girl? Granny asked. Yes. Baby, let me tell you something. You ain't gonna look like Edith. All the pressing in the world ain't gonna do that. They laugh again, the way Black girls laugh when we speak of when we wanted to look like white girls, the way Black girls have to laugh sometimes, and not just to keep from crying, just to keep on laughing. That's all I got. Appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Imani. And thank you for sharing a worst case scenario. Oh my God, I've been thinking about that periodically when I first saw that last year. And thank you for joining us tonight. Now in conversation with Tshaka Campbell, a husband and father, as well as accomplished artist and performer. He appears in print and national commercials, and he conducts lectures and facilitates workshops in creative writing and poetry. He was voted one of the 25 people to know in San Francisco, holds 2 Grand Slam titles, and was a finalist of the 2020 Santa Clara County Poet Laureate honor. Tshaka is an author of Stuff, I Will Write More, Muted Whispers, and Tunnel Vision, as well as collaborated on a number of musical projects in the house, jazz, and blues genres. His literary work has appeared in journals and reviews such as Two Bridges Review, Tribe Magazine, and others. He currently resides in San Jose and continues to ask the world to listen different. Now, please bring on
None of that means anything. We're not here. We here. We are here. Let me say it that
way. It
means
everything.
We are here to find out about this wonderful gem, this diamond that you guys just heard spill her soul for us. So thank you, Imani. It's always a pleasure to see you. Just so you guys know, there's a couple of people in the world, right? When you walk in a room and they just and you feel their presence, like they light up the room. That's this person. That is this person, and it just always warm, even when she's not saying anything. That's the feeling I get. So I just want to put that out there and appreciate her for that. Cool. Okay, so conversations, right? I got, there's so many things I would love to talk to you about, and we may take some chances to get questions from the audience a little bit after, but I don't know about that because this is my world right now, and I control all the to-dos. So if I feel like it, no. But I wanted this to be really about like getting to know you, right? If you want to understand your politics and all that kind of stuff, they can read your poetry. I think you are completely unapologetic in terms of what you feel and how you feel it. So they can look at that. But I want folks to be able to walk away from this knowing a little bit about you. So I have a number of questions that I'm going to go through. They're in no particular order. They just all over the place, just random. So the first one is just really quickly. I want you to tell people where you hail from. I think you mentioned Oakland, but I like when you say it.
I am originally from Southeast San Diego. Currently living in Oakland, California. I also was in DC for a few years, so I don't rep being from there by any means, but I definitely it's part of my home history.
Well, I heard people repping you. is from Oakland, so there you have it.
I'll take that. I'll take
There
that.
you go. There you have it. All right, cool. So I got to ask this question, which is just the quintessential. What got you into poetry? What what was that moment when you were like, you know what, I like this. I want to do this, and I can do this. Like, what was that moment for you?
The moment, wow, that's so specific. The moment, I think, was my first open mic in San Diego. It was at a venue called Elevated, that no longer exists anymore, but completely changed my life. It was the first and third Thursdays of the month, and I had been saying that I was going to go all through high school, and just never went. And then the summer before I went to college, I had a car and I didn't really have anything to do. So a friend of mine and I were going to go to, we said we were going to go. And then I pulled up and she texted me and said that she wasn't able to come to the babysit or something. And I had to kind of sit there and decide, like, am I going to go in by myself? Or, I'm still young. I just got out of high school. I don't really go to things alone like that. So anyway, I decided to go. I paid my little $5, and Sekou the Misfit, if anyone is familiar, was the feature. And if anyone knows Sekou, like, for him to be a first feature, it's like it wasn't fair. I had this very extreme standard for what this looks like on a regular basis because of Sekou. And I feel like, and I went home and I wrote a poem. I wrote the first poem that I ever performed that night. So it was probably, after watching him and seeing what the possibilities were for this live. I had seen spoken word on like Def Poetry Jam, of course. I had seen, in various places, but it wasn't until like I was sitting there by myself as, an 18-year-old watching this like moment happen. And I was like, I want to do this.
Nice. I love it. I mean, I remember going to a couple of times. I've been to the San Diego show, and it feels very cinematic to me. You kind of walk in there and it's like you're walking into this thing. So I can imagine how inspiring that must have been for you. Okay, my next question for you. What's your favorite word?
My favorite word is plump.
Plunk?
Plump.
Oh, plump. And why plump?
I just like how it sounds in my mouth and it like feels fun to say.
That's fantastic. No, that's dope. I mean, for me, I would add chicken to the end of it. So, I like food.
Yeah, anything. Pretty much. And it works. So like anything that is plump, I feel like is desirable by default of it being plump. Like there's nothing that's plump that I don't want to participate in, whether it's food or like partners. Like I like my partners a little plump, Okay. I want my crab legs to be plump. Plump is always good.
I hear that. I sometimes I go from plump to fluffy. Sometimes I use fluffy. You know what I mean?
Fluffy's good.
Fluffy's, fluffy works for me. Like I said, this is gonna be random. Okay.
I love this. This is so fun.
Okay, so that's your favorite word. Now, when you look, at your bio and you go to your website and your Instagram and your Facebook, and I'm not really stalking you, but I am. But when you do go on that stuff, right? One of the things, like on your website, it says writer, performer, and educator. Like what does that mean to you? If you had to give someone the 40-second, the 50-second elevator pitch of sort of, who you are and what you do, what is those three things? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I see you doing a little homework.
You know what I'm saying?
I see what you did there. Yeah. So okay, let's start with writer. Yep, I write. I write poems. I also write other things, and like to believe that I have capacity to write even things that I haven't thought of writing. And so, being a writer I've always been a writer. I've been writing things since I can remember. My dad is a musician, and so we would write little songs and things when I was a kid. I always really loved to read, which is a part of writing. It's like the first half of writing before it's like the precursor before you actually write something down. You gotta read things. And I love words. I'm also fluent in Spanish. And so I went to a Spanish, I didn't share that poem, but I went to a Spanish immersion school. So from kindergarten to 8th grade, all my classes were in Spanish, all my books were in Spanish. Like they literally immersed us into the language. And so, and I only went to that school because in preschool, sorry, this is gonna be my whole life story.
No, this is
in preschool. I had a preschool teacher who talked to us in Spanish. And I was like, what? There's like other languages? Like, I'm just learning this set of words. And there's like a whole nother set over here that I have access to. And I remember being really excited about that. And so my mom put me into this Spanish immersion school. And so all that to say, like words, I really love words. I really love the art of sewing words together to evoke emotion, both in oneself and in other people. And there are infinite ways that you can put words together to do that. And like it's like sounds, right? Like there's yeah. So anyway, the writer, that's the writer. The performer, I discovered because of the writer, honestly. I never really looked at myself as a performer. I kind of was into like theater. Like I was in like the little theater club in high school, but the teacher never put me in any of the plays. I don't know why, but I always went to them and like supported them. And yeah, it wasn't really until I started performing poems that I really got to be a performer in a way that I never really knew I wanted to do. And like, again, I would like to believe that there are other things that I maybe could perform, maybe performing things that other people wrote. I don't know. I've never done that before, but I think I could. And I think it's important to separate them. Yep. And then as an educator, right, so I started doing poems originally because in the 5th grade, someone came into my class to share poems and did like what I now know as a residency for a week and came into my class every day for that week. And that's when I kind of decided at like 10, 11, I don't know how old you are in the 5th grade. I was like, I like poems. I want to write poems. And I won this like award. I wrote a poem and I won this like award, and it got published in this anthology of like elementary school poets in San Diego. And there was a ceremony and it was a whole thing. It was super cute. And I remember being like I want to be a poet, I want a poem. Even if just in my journal, right? It wasn't like, I never thought of it as like a career, but it was like, when I go to sit down and write, I want to write a poem. And so I kind of have like come full circle with that, right? So now I go into classrooms and I try to provide similar experiences for my students. And for some, it might, completely change the trajectory of their life. But for some, it might be like, that's a cool thing I did once. And that too is valid and has value. So being an educator is really important to me. And it's fun. And I learn a lot from teaching my students. I teach elementary, middle, high school, and college in both English and Spanish, and spoken word, poetry slam, and just creative writing. So I get to have a lot of fun with it, and really get to give back in ways that were given to me.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. Now, are they all sort of, in terms of their importance to you, is it all equal? Does one flow above the other?
Interesting. I think they're all equal. As far as like on the same, I think they're equal, but they're not all first, right? I feel like I'm a lot of things before I'm a writer, poet. I'm sorry, writer. What is it? Writer, performer, educator.
Yeah.
Right. I'm
Black. I'm sorry.
I'm Black. No, really, I'm Black. I was gonna say that. I was like, damn, I've said I'm Black like 5 times tonight. But I appreciate you. So yes, I'm Black, right? And that's important. I'm working towards what it looks like, or learning what it looks like to be an organizer, to be a revolutionary. I'm working towards what does it look like to even be a good aunt, right? Like being a good friend. I think all of those things. I was watching a talk with Tongo Ison Martin and Hanif Abdurraqib yesterday. Two phenomenal poets, writers, friends of mine. And Hanif said, I don't want to butcher it, but Hanif said something to the effect of, he said, yes, I'm a writer, but I'm like 7 other things. And he said, I'm not 7 other things and a writer, but I'm 7 other things before I'm a writer. And he's like, and that's really important to name, that writing is where I get a lot of attention for, and a lot of people know me for that, but there are all these different things that I am and that I strive to be outside of that, and that's really important to me, and I think to anybody, or should be anyway, but right, because so it removes like the ego from the thing, right? And it's very easy to say, oh, I'm getting all this attention for this thing, so I'm gonna make this thing my entire person, right? If you take poems away, people will know what to do with themselves, right? You have to, who are you without the poems? Who are you without the poetry? Who are you in a space where don't nobody care? I'm like, sorry, more references to folks. So Tongo, he was recently the Essence Poet Laureate, so he's been doing a lot of things. But Tongo did a podcast episode with Right Nowish, which is like an Oakland-based podcast, but it's through NPR. So listen to it if you haven't. But he was saying that one of the questions that the interviewer asked was, he's like, what is the poet's role kind of in the revolution? What is the poet's role in organizing and pushing us towards liberation? And he was like, the poet needs to put down the poems and get into the trenches with the people, right? And he said, and don't be mad if nobody wants to hear a poem there, right? And that is like my whole like motto for life, right? It's like, yes, I poem and I'm good at it and I love it and it's fun and it's brought me so much joy and it's brought amazing people into my life. And also people are starving, right? People are dying on the streets right now in Oakland outside of my apartment, right? So what do I look like devoting my entire self to this thing that feeds my ego and that makes me look good while talking about the people who are outside of my door starving to death, and not contributing to that in some way. So, and to answer your question, yes, they're all equal, but they're not by any means like priority.
All right. That's fantastic. No, it makes a lot of sense, right? There's other things, like something had to feed the poems in the first place, right? So you had to be something and doing something beforehand. You mentioned when you were talking earlier about film, which I had no idea that was sort of an interest of yours. So do you see yourself going back into it, or do you feel like this, the poetry could parlay into it? What are your thoughts around with film?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, not a lot of people know that about me. But I've always been super interested in film and photography. I would go to like little film camps and stuff when I was in high school. And I applied to USC's film school, which I knew I wasn't going to get into USC. My grades were not shit. But, and then also San Francisco State had a cinema program. So I was like, okay, I'll go there for that. And like I said, my family's from Oakland, so I'll be near, folks I know. And I like I said, I got into poems super tough, and I got into the Black Studies courses super tough, and those things kind of merged together. And it ended up taking all of my time and attention. And that was also the time that I started to really get into Poetry Slam and being on Poetry Slam teams. And I kind of abandoned my love for film and photography. I know. But I'm recently starting to get into it because, poetry once was a hobby, and then when it kind of becomes your career, now you need a hobby, right? Because this thing that I used to escape from now is, and not to say that I don't, of course I write for myself, but now it's my job, right? It's like I have commissions and I have shows, and I, it's a different relationship to the thing now. And so I have picked up my camera again, so that I can have a thing that I'm not good at, and it's okay for me to not be good at it, and I can learn, at my own pace. I do, I'm very interested in multimedia projects. I'm not a musician by any means, but everyone in my family is a musician. So I have a very intimate relationship with music in general. So yeah, I would love there, but there are also like a lot of like these like, see, back in my day, you could put in spoken word into YouTube and you would get like some like shitty iPhone camera, like filming of like an open mic and there's a bunch of people loud in the background and you can't hear half the poem. Like that's what I miss about now. You put in spoken word on YouTube, there's like these music videos and these very well like these professionally shot and edited like Christian poems, which is fine, like do you, but it's just very different. So all that to say, I would love to do some sort of multimedia project. I just need it to not be like cheesy because that's important to me.
Hey, I mean, I can't wait for the screenplay, the film, your film.
Oh, that's what we're doing?
This is what we're doing. This is, I'm putting that out there. You'll see the question coming later.
I love you.
But okay, so next question. So who would win a slam between Langston Hughes and Maya Angelou?
Langston Hughes for sure. And not that has no bearing on like their craft or their abilities as writers, but I think maybe I'm not giving Maya Angelou. No, because I think my first thought is just levels. And you want your poem to have levels, right? You don't want to really like stay at the same level for the 3 minutes. And my experience of Langston Hughes, and not to say that I've listened to a lot of Langston Hughes poems, honestly, but I feel like he is able to kind of go up and down a little more to like keep you engaged, whereas Maya seems a little more consistent in her tone. And if you're not I'm really getting into this.
That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted.
If you're not a writer, right? So the thing about Poetry Slam and the fun of it for me is not only do you have to convince these 5 strangers who don't know you that your poems are exponentially better than everybody else's, but you have to kind of have this balance between writing for writers and writing for people who don't write, because that was kind of the whole point of Poetry Slam, was to get, a bunch of writers were coming to watch other writers, and it was like, well, what is this, right? We need to get other folks here. So you want to be able to cater to, you want to have some stuff in there that's like, so the writers in the audience are like, oh snap, I see what you did there, but also something so the people who don't write can follow. So I feel like with Maya Angelou, she's a great writer, but her tone is not going to be engaging enough to bring in folks who don't necessarily listen to poetry or read poetry. And I think Langston Hughes, it's a little more accessible.
Gotcha. Okay, no, that's dope, because it gets better. So now we're talking slam, but this is a 1 minute round.
Ooh.
Right? And now it's Neruda and
oh
Rumi,
my God.
and Rumi.
Oh my God. Ooh, Rumi is really good at being succinct.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go with Rumi.
You're gonna go with Rumi. Okay.
Yeah, because the 1 minute round, you gotta be quick, bro. Like you don't got a lot of time. And Rumi has like broken my heart in like 3 or 4 lines. Yes. So I'm gonna go with Rumi.
Gotcha. Okay, we're in the same place there. Okay. So
this is so fun. I want to play this. Like, we'll give you a bunch of poets and let's put them in a slam.
I know that's going to be for my next BBB. We'll talk about that later.
I'm with it.
We'll talk about that later. So 3 people in the elevator for 3 hours, right? You got to be in the elevator with 3 people for 3 hours. You can't get out. Who are those 3 people?
Assata Shakur, Bob Marley.
Okay.
And my grandmother, Cheryl, who passed when I was like 3.
Wow. And how would that work? Like what would be that? Like, I want to know
how we got here?
Well, no, how we got here, or like I want to listen to like a minute of that conversation. Like what is everyone saying to each other?
Well, I mean, it's really for an interview as far as I'm concerned. I have questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I have the same questions for all of them. I'm just like, curious about their experience and their approach to the questions. I have questions about liberation. I have questions about personal values. I have questions about what could I be doing differently, what they would have done differently. I just finished Assata Shakur's autobiography, super duper recommend. So I'm like obsessed with her right now, even more so than I probably was before. But yeah, I really value and admire Bob Marley as an artist, but also as a radical, right? As someone who in like the 6th grade gave his mama his books and was like, I'm good off this school shit. I'm gonna do music.
All right, I got this other thing I'm doing.
Yeah, this I feel this resonates with me, right?
Yeah.
And that's an absurd thing to do.
Yeah.
And he did it. And then my grandmother, I've been hearing my whole life from, of course, her sisters and my dad and my uncle, just how similar we are, even without my ever knowing her, like how we look alike, but also, our mannerisms, the things that our morals, the things that we value are very similar. And so, yeah, I think that they all would have some interesting things to say to each other. So that's my elevator.
That's so dope. I got a couple more questions for you, right?
Okay. This is so fun.
What is your crowning achievement so far? It doesn't have to be around poetry. It could be just any, like, what is your crowning achievement?
Ooh, that's a good question. My crowning achievement. I think I'm going to take this and kind of run with it. So I think depending on the different parts of me have different ones, right? So as a poet and as a poet who participates in Poetry Slam, my crowning achievement was definitely winning the Women of the World Poetry Slam for the 2nd time. Because when I found out about Poetry Slam, I was like, oh, I want to play. And then when I found out there was a Women of the World Poetry Slam, when I was like 19, I was like, ooh, I want to win that one day. And then I won and I tied with Emi Mahmoud, who's a phenomenal writer, poet. She also won the individual World Poetry Slam the previous year. And so we tied for first and we decided to share the title. The first Black women to do so. So we wanted it to be about love and poems. To be, I mean, if we're being super real, if it maybe were somebody else, I might have been like, nah, we finna do this stuff. But because it was Emmy,
we going to haikus.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, nah. But because it was Emmy and I love and respect her so much, I was like, all right, we can be the same. But then afterwards, because of my competitive spirit and my competitive nature, I was like, I don't know, this kind of feels this isn't how I imagined it, right? And so Rudy Francisco, I don't know if y'all are familiar, but if you aren't, look him up. I'm sure you are. He was with me. He was kind of coaching me through it. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, this kind of feels iffy. And he was like, win again. I was like, I just won. This was like hours out. Like, I just won. Winning. He's like, yeah, win again. Simple. Right. Like, it was that easy. And then I went back, lost in 2018. And then I went back in 2020 and won again. And so I was like, wow, like, I didn't know if I could do that. So that was definitely a big deal for me. I think as a person outside of my being a poet, I think being able to make a living as an artist. Like I walk into my apartment every day and I'm grateful, right? Like poetry pays my rent. It bought my couch, right? Like, and what I know what it took to get to that point. I know how many years I struggled. And I know the capacity, the possibility for me to struggle again because of the nature of being an artist, right? So I understand that right now is good, but next year it could be very different, right? So yeah, and to quit jobs and tell your family that you're gonna try to do poems is absurd. And I had a lot of skepticism, as I too was skeptical, but I made it happen. I made it work, and I worked really hard, and I had a lot of support, and so that's a big deal for me.
That was a super proud moment for me.
Yeah.
When that 2020, like I felt like I felt your win. You did it for all of us, indeed.
So sweet.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is what I call quick fire, quick silver.
Okay,
right?
I'm ready.
And so you not have time to think, right? It's the first
Oh my
thing
God.
that comes to your mind,
Okay,
right?
pressure.
I'm going to say a word. You got to tell me the
Okay.
first thing that comes to your mind, right?
Right.
Poetry. So you
I'm sorry, I
thinking.
just keep seeing this elephant behind you. All I see is an elephant. Okay, I'm gonna close my eyes. Okay, start again.
Okay. Poetry.
Microphone.
Woman.
Maya Angelou.
Black woman.
My mama.
Metaphor.
I'm seeing like an orange. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know.
That's good. Religion.
Ankh.
Oakland.
I'm seeing like the map of Oakland.
That's what's up. Rudy Francisco.
It's my brother. I love him.
Hip hop.
I'm seeing her face. I can't remember her name. What's her name? Roxanne?
Shantae. I just showed my age.
Yes. You did.
Okay, I
love
did.
I love this for you.
I did. Can we edit that part out?
We live, boo. Too late.
Okay, roller skates.
Ooh, roller rink.
George Floyd.
Summer 2020.
Kiss.
Prince.
Retirement.
Land.
Nice. And the last one, we have is beauty. You better say you. Sorry.
I know myself.
That's what's up. Okay.
I'll take it.
There you go. There you go. Okay. So that was Quicksilver.
Okay.
Quick fire. Two more questions for you. For you. If you had a magic wand and you had one wish, right? But this wish that you had was focused on the state of poetry today. Like it had to do with poetry. Like what would that wish be?
I wish we could stop slamming online because I'm sorry, these folks have been yelling in their living rooms for like a year, and it's time. Like it's time. It's fine. So I would wave my magic wand, and somehow, some way, we would be able to gather for poetry slams specifically or poetry readings, open mics, without the fear of dying from a virus.
I feel you. I mean, the lengths that people have gone through to try and mimic like a stage. They've got microphones. It's been, and then the microphone doesn't work, and then it's just been a lot.
The lights are falling on you. Yeah. And it's like we could just not. It's okay. And I get it. I miss it. Like I've been saying poems out loud since 2008, and this is the longest I've gone without saying a poem on a stage since I started. So I get it. And also, chill.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, this is my second to last question.
Okay.
What is the single most important thing to you that has enabled you to achieve what you've achieved so far?
The single most important thing to me that's enabled me to achieve what I've achieved so far. My people, my circle, specifically Rudy Francisco, Javon Johnson, Ant Black, Christopher Wilson, Shihan, Teresa Siagatonu, Darius Simpson, the people who held me and hold me and keep me and teach me. Spoken word and poetry slam is very communal in the way that you just show up and put your name on a list. And if you keep going, right, over time, and you start to be recognized for, even if not necessarily, because I wasn't always good at this, right? But you start to be recognized for like the hunger and the drive and the excitement about the thing, right? And it definitely becomes like an apprenticeship type of thing where someone in that community says, hey, come talk to me, you know, come rap with me. This was dope. I like what you did here. Maybe you should do this differently. You know, you trying to come eat with us after the show, like let's talk more. Where are you from? Like, you know, and that's kind of how the community develops. And if it weren't for those people that I just named taking a genuine interest throughout my career, in my work, in my person, in how I was showing up, then I absolutely wouldn't be where I am. That and YouTube, because YouTube taught me poetry. Like all the people, like I said, in their shitty iPhone videos of open mics, uploading those, like I'm so forever grateful, because I would spend hours still. I mean, I actually don't do it as often, honestly, but would spend hours watching YouTube videos and really learning about the craft of spoken word just from watching it over and over and over again. There are no classes to teach spoken word, and there are now probably, but even, it's not, you know, Tshaka, like it's not the same, you know, it's not. So yeah, it's the people, it's the people. Yeah, that kept me going.
That's so dope. And for anyone listening that's on now or listening later on, please look up all the folks that Imani just talked about. They're amazing people and poets. All right, I'm going to finish this off with this. It's not even a question, right? What it is, you know, I think we owe this to performers like you, and is anyone doing an open mic, sometimes after you do a couple of poems, people just get so caught in the rhythm of and what you're saying, sometimes they miss stuff, right? So I just want to remind them, and this is just an excerpt from, and it's funny because we're in tune. I pulled this, and you actually did the poem, which is I Want to Punch All the White People in Oakland after LL Cool J. But I want folks to hear this, right? There's a part that I pulled out. Of all the ways to draw blood, my favorite is on purpose. From the descendants of my colonizers, I am not violent, but you came up in my house, ain't wipe your feet, ain't greet my granny. How you gonna ask me if I'm supposed to be where I'm at? That right there, okay? That right there. And so again, I wanted to honor you for many reasons, but specifically, sometimes I listen to folks and they do their performances and their shows, and I think at the end of it, we should honor something that they said and let that stay in the universe when we're done. So
appreciate that.
So there's that, and I want to thank you. You're amazing. I mean, Robert, do we have time to ask any questions from the audience?
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's any questions from the audience, let's have that.
Thank you, Tshaka.
Unmute
I
everybody.
Appreciate you.
We can do that.
I appreciate you. It's been such a pleasure just learning from you and watching you, and
look,
you have no idea.
No, I stalk you, so don't like.
No, don't. But you stalked me because I stalked you first.
No,
don't do this.
You guys don't understand. Like I said, there's a presence that she has, and I think everyone has their own frequency, right? Everyone has their own shine. Your frequency is on some old, like, if we turn it on, you're going to hear it across the globe. There's this thing called a Merkaba, which surrounds, like, it kind of surrounds and protects the earth. And I feel like that's the frequency you're on. So yeah, I'm gonna stop gushing. But no, I feel that for real. That's for real though, for real. There's a couple of people I feel about, a couple of those folks are on this call too, but
agreed.
I want you to you need to walk away knowing that you're loved and appreciated. So
thanks. Mike McGee has a question, it looks like.
Yeah.
Mike McGee raised.
Okay. You want to read it, Mike? Or go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious, as a writer and a performer, how you handle moments of self-doubt.
She's like,
it's
I
funny
don't
that you-
doubt myself.
Right? No, it's funny that you think I handle it.
Well, no, but I mean, you know, like we all have processes, right? Like for me, some
Sure.
days it's like just give me a bag of Doritos and shut the light off, you know. But
literally.
Yeah.
For me, it's hot Cheetos, but same sentiment.
same.
I think that yeah. I think one, I always. So I'm of the belief that if I have a thought that doesn't, about myself especially, that doesn't feel good to me, then that means that there's some distance between what I'm feeling right now and the truth. And so there are a few ways that I can close that distance. I can call a friend, I can phone a friend, and I can say, these are the things that I'm thinking about myself. These are the things that I'm saying to myself. I need you to interrupt or interrogate that for me. Sometimes I'm not really feeling that. Sometimes I'm not really trying to talk to nobody about how I feel. I think what you named is important, right? Like just disassociating with my thoughts, right? One of the things that I've learned that's been really important to just how I function and move in the world is that I don't have to react or respond to every thought. Like I can have a thought and then let that thought pass. Like I don't have to do something or even continue with a thought, right? I don't have to inquire further about a thought just because I had a thought. I can recognize that thought and say, okay, that was a thought, and then let it be over. And so, yeah, and sometimes that looks like just shutting down, right? So if I'm at my computer and I'm writing and I'm struggling, okay, bye, right? I'm gonna go do something else. I'm gonna go watch The Office and eat chocolate chips out of the bag. And I think that's okay, right? It's okay to step away, either literally or mentally, from whatever the doubt is. And then the last thing is, if you feel like, or if I feel like I'm have capacity to, but I'll lean into it. And I will ask some more questions and figure out like what's going on, because doubt is a survival technique, right? That's something that we over time have developed as humans, right? To keep us safe. So where's the doubt coming from? Is it reasonable? A reasonable doubt. See what I did there?
Boom, boom.
Is it protecting me from something, right? Is or how can I use that energy either to take a step back and say, you know what, I need to read a little more, or study a little more, or research a little more, or whatever about this thing because I'm really struggling, or I need to ask more questions, or I need to bring more people in, right? Or maybe this isn't something I should do right now. Maybe I should sit on it, and right. So yeah, not completely disregarding always the doubt or the fear or whatever. I always tell my students that I coach in Poetry Slam, especially that, nerves are good. They're like, oh, I'm nervous. That's good. That means you care. That means that there's some stakes involved. That means that, and use that energy and put it into the thing that you're doing. So those are kind of the three things that I do.
That's great.
Indeed. Any other questions from the audience?
Is that the same approach for young students in, say, for example, elementary and middle school, or do you have a different approach to address their self-doubt?
No, I think for younger people, I would just say get used to it.
That's real.
Because yeah, I mean, you just got here, child, and yeah, and just I think being aware of it and then the moving on, right? And I think the piece about letting a thought happen and let it pass, I think is still relevant to younger folks. I probably wouldn't task them with trying to lean in and figure out where the doubt is coming from and how to use it. And I also probably wouldn't tell them to disassociate completely, because I feel like that's a little early to start doing that. But yeah, the recognizing it, even maybe writing about it, and then just saying, okay, this too is a feeling and it is valid and it will pass.
Yeah.
Indeed. Indeed.
Other questions? Talk to me. Come and talk to me.
Come on, folks. Any questions? I've asked a lot, so I'm not going to ask any more.
And you have my phone number, so you
Oh,
can
indeed.
ask me questions
Indeed.
whenever you want to.
There it is. See, now you guys have it on camera. So next time, if he won't stop calling.
Whatever.
You heard it
So
here.
silly.
All right. Well, look, I know it's late over on this side, so I don't want to keep people away from family or plump food.
Fluffy.
I remember exactly, or fluffy food, exactly. But again, I want to thank, and I'll pass it over to Robert when I'm done to kind of do the closing. But again, I am absolutely honored to be able to sit here and have a conversation with you. And when all of this is done, which hopefully will be soon, we will exchange hugs, plump hugs. And yeah, I'm gonna use it at least 3 times before I get off this phone, before I get off the call. And but yeah, so thank you for sharing. Thank you for opening up to us, right? Because you went in and that's what I really wanted folks to know, is to know the beauty that I know, right? And so I'm glad you did that with me. So I will see you soon. Thank you very much. And I will pass it over to Robert to close us out.
Thank you, Tshaka. Let me just ask before closing, give us a little lowdown about the new program for Poetry Center San Jose coming up on Juneteenth. We'll see you coming up on that.
Oh, to talk a little about that, did you want me to say something about that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I am super happy and proud about this new programming, right? It's called Beautiful Black Books. And so what we're going to do every month is bring in an author and spend some time talking about their work and about the author. It's giving light to folks that typically would not get that kind of light, right? But a chance to sort of expand onto their audience, like what's their process, what's their inspiration, what's the book about, what, all of those good things. But it's gonna jump off on Juneteenth. I'm super excited about it. This is brand new programming from Poetry Center San Jose, and I'm beaming. I can't wait for this to start, for it to build out. For it to replace the Oscars, all of that good stuff. But yeah. So stay tuned. We'll have some information for you guys on all the normal channels. But yeah, excited.
Great. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Tshaka. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to CLA, Center for Literary Arts of San Jose. Thank you, Imani Cezanne, for showing and being with us open here tonight. And want to just remind folks that CLA has Otessa Moshfegh coming Thursday, May 6th at 7 p.m. on Crowdcast. And just save your chats for the information. And she'll be reading from her book titled Death in Her Hands. And then Well Read coming in May, on May 11th, featuring the new editors of Stagera magazine. So again, thank you, Imani. Thank you, Tshaka, for coming tonight.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy, Gary, Jan, Rebecca, Mighty Mike McGee, and Scorpiana, who's got her San Jose Poetry Slam featuring Janice Lobo Sapigao, second Sunday in May, starting 6:30. And well, we're hoping for Slam coming together. This is going to be in Zoom, but we'll be looking forward to getting together in person fairly soon. All right.
All right, guys.
Love to y'all.
Have a safe and beautiful night. All right, love.